Okay, so we're talking about speed, developing speed on this instrument. And in the last two videos, we've been talking about that. So go watch those if you haven't already. The next thing we're going to focus on is the king, is the crown jewel of speed, which is called alternate picking. And the reason why it's called that is because it's very useful to play single notes. But the reason why it has such a high status is that it's also the hardest thing to develop. And actually, after developing my alternate picking skills to the level I have, I will say that it isn't the hardest thing. It just takes more repetitions. But the repetitions aren't hard, right? It's all the frustration along the way where, I'm going nowhere. Will I ever learn this? You know, all that. That's the real hardship. That's what's hard about developing alternate picking. But if I could go back, if I lost those skills and I had to develop them again, it would be easy because I know what it takes. And my best recommendations too is to go download my free course on alternate picking called Ingenium. You've heard this a couple of times if you watched the two previous videos, but you'll find the link down here. It's free. It gives you a practice method that you can really use that will give you results to develop any technique. So go download it right now. Now, let's look into what is the most important thing if you want to develop this technique. What's the most important insight that I can give you? And the first thing that comes to mind is to isolate the picking hand. This is something that actually, it was, Paul Gilbert, if you ever watched his first instructional videos, he says this, kind of like a side thing. Like he says, oh, you might want to, stop playing anything with the left hand and just look at the right hand. But that just became an obsession to me, that little thing, because I noticed how valuable that was. And the reason why it's valuable, you practice, you take anything you practice, like, that was the exercise I picked up from him. And then you say, okay, what am I really doing with my picking hand? And then you isolate that, and suddenly magic happens. Because now your brain can actually analyze what goes on. It can hear, it can feel, and it can have a focus on just the picking motion. Magic, because now there's a feedback loop, which is necessary for learning. If you muddy the picking motion, which is the hardest discipline there, you can learn this much faster than you can learn this. When you isolate that, suddenly you create that feedback loop where the brain can really learn and say, okay, what's going on here? And it becomes kind of a meditation when you use the metronome, you do your picking exercises. And suddenly you learn like triple, quadruple, 5 times, 10 times the speed because the brain can adjust all the time. It gets accurate and very direct, immediate feedback on what it's doing. So it can adjust all the time and learn. When you do, you can't really hear, did I fret that right? Did you actually pick it right? There's so many things to muddy up the experience, and that feedback loop it's blurry. It's like a fog now. So the brain can't really, what was that? Did I pick that? When you isolate it and just focus, because the brain can only focus on one thing at a time. Focus on that thing. Then it's a whole new path for you. So I'm just going to show you briefly what that means, and then we'll move on. When you isolate your right hand, you suddenly, instead of playing a lot of notes, you suddenly get the ability to hear every single little inconsistency you do. You can feel it and you can hear it. So if you're not even in your picking motion, it's going to be very obvious very fast. But if you have a lot of notes, it's going to be all muddied. You can't really hear what you're doing. Of course, you want to integrate the two. You want to be able to synchronize this hand with this hand. But you have to work on your picking technique because this is by far the heaviest load on your body, is learning how to do that in an accurate way. Your left hand is going to learn that much faster and play all the notes than this hand is going to learn to pick them. My recommendation when you hear something like this is always to try it for at least a week. If you're really serious about it and you really want to make sure that you figure out whether this works for you or not, because it does, then do it for 4 weeks. Like you have to, if you bake a cake, you have to put it in the oven for a specific period of time in order to get a result, right? If you pull it out too early, it's not going to be very good. Well, it's going to be like a blob, right? So you want to take this little recipe and put it in the oven long enough for you to get a result, right? Most people never do that. They hear something, they put it into action, and then, they look at it, that's not the cake I want. No, because you have to leave it in there, right? You have to add time to the recipe in order to really get what you want. So that's my warmest. And if you watch the other videos, now you have 3 different things to do, right? So you must go and download my free course so you can create a practice plan really fast and get this under control so you can start developing your technique here. And this is not like, speed isn't everything, Klaus. No, but it's something, right? It's like saying, okay, bending, it's not everything. No, why would it be? Like, why would you say that? No, of course. Who told you that that's everything? Right? Who claims that? Speed is just one thing. It takes an inordinate amount of practice time to achieve. Right? And that's why most people never go for it, or they think they can't do it. That's really the most important reason. They think they can't develop speed. But everyone can. It's a mechanical thing. Everyone has about the same body, about the same nervous system. And if you engage in the same activities as somebody who actually made it, then you're going to get the same result. It's so, but because it's like, it looks magical. It's look inhumane. It's look not inhumane, but unhuman. It's look like an alien ability. How can you do that? But that's just what your body can do. It's a mechanical thing. I won't guarantee that you can create great art with your skills, but anyone can learn to go. Everybody. It's just the body who's able to do that. That's why we're out of the food chain. That's why we're the highest developed species on this planet, is because we can adapt to anything, right? So just start adapting to alternate picking, to sweep picking, to legato, and use the methods I described and focus and refocus on doing it right, building that, training yourself to doing it right. So that's all for now. See you in the next video.